Hello, everybody. It is I, Menace, back to you with another YouTube video. I'm sorry for the unenthusiastic battle cry, but as you can see, I'm sitting in a wooden chair, and that's kind of hard to sit on. I was going to record this story upstairs in my room in my comfy, unique, and antiquity chair, but my family member, or at least one of them, decided they were going to watch an inappropriate show, and it has a lot of bad words in it and very inappropriate behavior. So you can understand why I'm recording this down here and not up there in my comfy room. Because the room is right beside mine, and the TV's super loud. Even if I tone down the volume of my phone, it's not going to do anything to block out the sound. And I don't want to be copyrighted a third time. I've been copyrighted for 2 stupid things already. The first one, some weird code in Call of Duty, even though I was doing a dedication video to one of my best friends. Hunter, I'm still very sad that I took down that video. It was dedicated to you, man. And the second one was a copyrighted for a billboard in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Wii game. A billboard. Of all things, it's a billboard. Well, I'm not going to get copyrighted a third time today. I'm making sure of it. I'm down here. I got nothing with no logos on it. Pillow, you get out of here. You get out of this video. I didn't welcome you to this party. Get your pillows today. Now party size. No! The jokes are never ending. But that's not why I'm here today. Now is it? No. I'm here to discuss something. You see, I'm a big fan of certain things like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Legos, Bakugans, even though they've kind of outdated themselves. Beyblades, Yu-Gi-Oh! At one point, Pokemon at some point, and game theory. Come on, let's hear it. Who likes game theory? Yeah! Well, there was a few things in MatPat's video that kind of bothered me. If you notice in his 6th video, his 6th, I can't do that because my teeth don't let me do that. 6th. Just go with that. But in his number 6 video, he tried to tie up all the loose ends, try to bind it all together in a very neatly organized way. And he did, on almost all of it, but there were a few things that stuck out to me on my little gameplay when I played Bendy Machine for basically the second time around that kind of stuck out to me. So I'm coming out with you with my own unique story of how I think this all went down. Is some of it gonna still be loose? Well, yes. It's up to us to figure this out. Us gamers, us theorists. We have to figure this out and put it all together. So let's start with his theories, what he had going. He believed, he theorized, he predicted, however you want to put it, but I'm going with he theorized. MatPat theorized that Joey Drew was tricking everybody one by one into coming back to the old studio after 30 years, after supposedly Henry sued the company for Joey stealing his creation, being little Bendy. And then he started sacrificing them to the ink machine. One by one, down below they go, into the inky depths. But that wasn't all. He also theorized that it was Henry, no last name given, as he so blatantly put it, that he was the one leaving all those hidden messages around the studio that, you know, Alice was following that I so plainly stated in my video. But how could he have known? And he assumes that Henry's been in like some kind of loophole for a good while. So some of the parts I'm going to make aren't going to make sense. A few of them will. But let's go with the very beginning, with how it all basically started. So like we said, we go back down to the 1900s, back during the time of the Great Depression and the Great War. Overseas, back there in Europe, Asia. I don't think Africa was involved in it. But it was the Great World War of I and II, where Hitler suddenly rose to power and started taking over the nations, and eventually was going to plan to give like Japan to the US, and they rule over the entire world. But that's not the case anymore. We won that war, thank heavens. Japan has become a great nation now, so has America once again, despite all the politics that have been rising. But back then, they were all in a Great Depression. The Great Depression, as I've already stated. They needed a reason to laugh. They needed that reason. And thus was created, as Matt Pat even stated himself, the born of the golden age of animation. Where things like Mickey Mouse and Bimbo, those things existed. But this game was based off of that story. Based off of Max Fleischer and Walt Disney. The two biggest tycoons to basically ever run any kind of studio industries in America. And that's where this game comes in. It's based in that era. So the way it works is, way back when they were still running things, their studio was really good. They made a bunch of things way back then, a bunch of good studio animations and whatnot, all that good stuff. But it just wasn't enough. They needed more. I don't know how else to put this. They wanted more. So Joey wanted more characters. Henry created one. It was a cuter version of the now well-known Bendy. But he simply writes no. And then he steals his character. Like, Joey, of all things, man, why you be doing this? So Henry quite possibly sued them, and then he left. He never came back. For 30 years, he never came back. Not once. Well, time went on, and they wanted more. Even more. They wanted life-size characters. They wanted ones you could feel, touch, shake the hand with, talk to, hold a conversation with. And that's when they made their first attempt. Joey brought in a few instruction plans. Attention, Wally Franks. Had them install the ink machine. Right in over our heads. He had it in pipes everywhere with the instructions. Thomas Connor himself even complained about how the pipes were just not holding up. It just didn't make any sense. How some crummy little pipes could hold up that kind of strain. It just didn't make any sense. Even Sammy Lawrence complained. So first, Joey installs this ink machine over our heads. 3 times last month, we got trapped in our apartments because ink had flooded the stairwells. Joey's solution? A drain. To drain the ink periodically. Now I got this ugly pump in my office. People in and out all day. I'm not quoting this fully because that'd be a lot of work. But I'm doing the best I can with the memory that I have. But that was his solution to the ink machine, how it worked. And as you could clearly see, it had an output of 423 gallons on Friday. Or maybe it was Saturday. But it was one of those 2 days. That was a big output, like huge. That's a lot of ink. So they ran a few tests, and they made their first attempt. They made the first version of Bendy. They always called him unworldly, a bit odd in design, something strange about him. Apologies if you just heard the laugh now. That was my sister. This is exactly why I went down here, to get away from all the noise up there. Doing what I can with what I got. I'm sorry. But things got more interesting. Because, well, you see, Bendy, he had no soul. And they ran tests and they believed that it was because that he had no soul of why he was so weird. So Joey finds out about it. He's really freaking pissed. Wherever that grinning thing I saw was running around the office, you better keep that locked up tight. Because if the press finds out, it can scare off investors. If you say it's because these things are soulless, then damn it, we'll give them a soul. As he so clearly states out. Well, that's when things get a little bit more messed up. You see, their style of animation, it was like a mixture between Fletcher Studios and Disney's. It was meant to be like Disney's style, but the actual story writing was a lot like John Fletcher's, or Max Fletcher's. Max Fletcher's. I can't say that name. Does anybody else have that problem with that kind of name? Maybe it's just me. Max Fletcher's studio. It was like their story writing, but Disney's animation design. That was like what their thing was. So I'm guessing eventually the studio started shutting down because people weren't watching them as much. Maybe somebody else better came along and, well, that's kind of what happened. Sometimes you get good competition and you just can't outrun them. But Joey would not stop. He kept trying to basically appease the gods and his god complex, reaching for the heavens, so to speak. But when it all shut down, he wouldn't. Some of the people started complaining. At this point, I don't get what Joey's plan is. The animations sure aren't being finished on time anymore. I don't even see why we need this machine. It's noisy, it's messy, who needs that much ink anyways? Also, get this. Joey had each one of us donate something to the workplace. Appease the gods, Joey says. Frankly, I think he's lost his mind, but hey, he writes the checks. I tell you what, if one more of these pipes burst, I'm out of here. Wally Franks. He started tricking people into being sacrificed to the ink machine. Who the first one was, I don't really know, but I have confrontation and confirmation that it actually was a good number of the people. And those that he couldn't sacrifice, well, those just became regular ink creatures that, if they touched ink, it could claim them and they could never really enter. That explains that part of the problem. That explains why Allison Connor and Thomas Connor would not go into Bendy's lair. Because if they touched ink, they're dead. It's like dropping a drop of water into the ocean. You'll never ever see it again. And if you do, it's a very rare chance. It'd be like me dropping a blanket into a mountain of blankets. It'd be the equivalent of me dropping a needle into a haystack. The odds of you actually finding it again, it's super rare. So if they touch that ink, they're as good as dead. And that's why they didn't touch it. But Henry, he could. He was one of the people that was tricked. He was tricked, brutally murdered, put over his desk, basically slumped, found just like this, laying over his desk with paper. In the background, that said, animator pushes himself a bit too hard, or something along those lines. And that's kind of what happened, but not the full truth. Joey sacrificed everybody he could get his hands on. Susie Campbell, Sammy Lawrence. And eventually, he worked his way down to Henry. My guess was he was making something to get back at old Henry. "Come by the old workshop," he says. "There's something I need to show you." Well, that he did. He killed him, put him inside a loophole, and forever tormented Henry, based on what I'm guessing. So if he was in a loophole, that tally marks would explain that. That would also explain why Henry kept writing those secret messages that Allison kept finding and trying to decipher, basically. But it wasn't the end. Oh no. He started putting them in the ink machine after killing them. And that's when we got those other variants. Bendy, Boris, Alice, and Henry. Henry's sitting there watching it all go by. But where does Bendy stay in all this? We're talking about the true story of Bendy here. He's watching all this happen. His legacy, his home creation of a company just plummeting, going down, falling apart. And he's trying to clean up after it, making sure it all goes together. It all works quite well. But it wasn't enough. Here comes Henry. Henry doesn't know what he's doing here. Why would he? I mean, why would he? Honestly. There's a lot of names in this game. A lot of characters, a lot of people, a lot of good design work. Frankly, it's one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Because it literally touches my heart back when I used to love Disney work. It touches my soul when it comes to animation. Because animation is what I'm trying to reach one day. It's truly phenomenal work. Bendy's watching this all go by, and he's refusing. He's denying. No, he's straight out unaccepting that his company, his legacy, is going down. Now, there was some info leading that Bendy was meant to become Joey, but maybe they took it out for that exact reason. Because if Joey did become Bendy, it would ruin the whole story. Because Bendy is meant to be no one else but Bendy. It's not full theory, it's a bit interesting, but if you play along with this story, it actually does make sense. Now explain what like the items in the back room of Joey's house is. There's the ink machine. There's the items. What if those were the old items? If you notice when you enter the workshop, the ink machine looks almost brand new. Like it was just built. Right off the bat. Right off the conveyor belt. There it is. And notice how the items look brand new as well. Yes, the gear's a bit different, but what if Joey replaced the items? Hear me out. What if he actually replaced the main items to the workshop? He himself. That would explain why they were so new. That would explain the old ones in the place. He didn't want to get rid of them because they meant a lot to him. They were his creations, his designs, his work, and some of the stuff that he also stole. But they were his things. And they mattered to Joey. And now Henry's caught in the middle of this feud between Boris, Alice, and Bendy. All, I guess you could say, 3 groups of them. Because there's Alice and Boris. There's regular Boris, the neutral party that we really don't count in this matter. There's Susie Campbell, the Alice. And then there's Bendy, the soulless one. The one who's watching all this go by. The king of his legacy. His domain, basically. And then Joey finally is just sitting there like, take that, Henry. That's for all the pain you caused me for suing my company. Well, now Henry's had enough. He figures out, between the help of basically Allison Pendle, aka Allison Connor, and Thomas Connor, the Mechabors, it's time. We have to end it all. Notice that one recording there at the end. Joey made that recording himself. It was in Bendy's lair, almost like Henry was meant to find it. The other ones, sure, he found them just by searching around. But this one was right there, out in the open, right by the throne. It was meant to be found. Now that is something a little bit interesting, don't you think? Honestly, I think it's very interesting. It explains a lot. And now Henry realizes, after he plays that recording, it's all got to end. Bendy's reign, this whole place, this whole studio, it all has to go. It must end. And that final cutscene, was it when Joey was going to kidnap him, basically lead him into the place? Well, yes. But if you take it out of context, it can be led into quite a different ways. Yes, there's Matt Pat's way, where he's admitting he's still bad, but there's also this version. You were always so good at pushing, old friend. Pushing me to do the right thing. You should have pushed a little harder. Let's assume that he did sue the company. He actually tried to convince Joey not to do this. He didn't want to sue them. Joey was his old friend, as he stated. I was invited here by an old friend, and now I can't leave. He was a friend. He was trying to convince him not to do this, because he would sue him. But Joey didn't listen, and he got sued. So now, Henry makes his final stand. He leads Bendy on a little chair around his little throne room, turns off all the power, all the ink stuff, gets the only bit of power he needs left. And then he plays the reel. Right when Bendy's about to make his final move, he turns and realizes something's playing. He goes to look. The end. It was the end for Bendy, because he would not accept that his legacy, his reign, was ending. But when it said the end on that reel, it was the final reel. Bendy had no choice but to accept it after it was forced around him. And there he is, saying, I won't accept this. But deep down, Bendy knew he had to. And that was the end of Bendy. The very first variance. The very first life-size creation. The very first one. Frankly, I think that makes for a pretty good story. Now, as to leading to the other details, I mean, Sammy, we know he's there. Susie, we know she's there. Do we know if Wally Franks is there? I don't think he was there. Because it literally said on the board that Alice, aka Allison, Thomas Connor, and Wally Franks, they were right there on the board as we were walking through his house. They were just too far away to come back. They didn't want to come back. They felt good where they were. They had their own routines going. They had a few jobs they were doing. Wally was at a beach with his grandkids. Allison and Thomas, they were married and they had a job in another studio. They were going back into the recording booth the very next day or week or something. They didn't want to come back to see the old studio. They're happy where they were. Were they touched that Joey was reaching out to them in his kind of twisted way? Oh yeah, because he was a bit of a wordsmith. But they were just too far away to come back. And as for the the ink creatures, the searchers, the lost ones. I don't know about this. Frankly, it makes sense. If they have a soul, their body should be behind, like the projectionist. When you kill them, their body stays behind. But for a few of them, actually, their bodies stay behind, and they actually don't at the same time. Literally go to chapter 3, where you visit level 9. Just follow the screams. If you go in that back room, that room with all the dead Bori, you'll find 3 things that really stick out. They're nicknames. The first one is nicknamed the monkey, the creature with the wrench. The second, the spider, the dude with the extra limbs and the mouth coming out of his head and his original mouth sewn over. And then the third one, he's had a few nicknames like the pole, the fisher, because his little neck is a pole. And there's a string coming off that pole which is attached to his head that he just swings around. You'll find all 3 of those in that room. Their bodies, well, preserved after death. One's hanging, one's on the floor, one's on a board, but they're there. But when you kill them in the game, every time you kill them, their body doesn't stay behind. So maybe a few of them had souls, but then there wasn't enough like souls that came back to Joey being tricked and all to preserving all of them. Maybe that's a theory. I honestly don't know. But it is interesting. The Searchers and the Lost Ones, they don't have any souls. They don't. They make it seem like they do, but they don't. It's kind of sad. But there we go. That's my basic story of all the info for Bendy and Ink Machine. All put together in a neat little story. If there's any parts you think I left out, by all means let me know in the comments. I'm going to have them open. Let me know what you think. Was there anything I missed out? I mean, there's probably a few things. But I think I did a good job summing this all up in my own neat little way. Is MatPat's theory possible? Yes, it's highly possible. But so is mine. They were never proven 100% by the makers of the game. So we don't know this for sure. Now, granted, I don't have as many neat little tricks and gadgets as MatPat does, but I'm still doing my best. I did what I could with what I had. I didn't throw in that many jokes because this was a serious matter. This was a story. An actual story that's really messed up. A very, very messed up story. I think I did a good job. So thank you everybody so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more Minecraft and or gaming content, please, by all means, subscribe, because I am going to be making the whole game in Minecraft soon. I've already started making the first chapter. I'm going to get it done eventually. But until then, I'm going to keep posting, keep you all entertained, until it's finally ready to be shown. Yes. And like always, this is Menace Necker, signing off. And I will see you, in my next video. Bye-bye! Have a great day, everybody! Bye-bye! Bye-bye! Do I gotta do 2 hands? Bye-bye! Bye! Bye! I'm being stupid on purpose, so accept it. Ready? Stupid walk and march. Bye-bye! Literally, if you don't say TF to that, or the matter with you, child, or that's weird, stupid, but funny at the same time, I don't know who you are as a person. I honestly don't. But thank you, everybody. I'll see you all soon. I say as I violently shake the phone.
Okay, bye-bye for real. See you all next time. Have a great day, everybody.